Here's a little tip. Whenever you've got your camera, make sure you have a charged battery. Always have a charged battery. Have more than one battery. Have a couple of batteries. Make sure you always have a charged battery and you have a fresh tape ready to put in, or have a fresh tape already in. So whenever something happens, you're ready to go. You haven't got to get there and find out, oh, I've got no tape, or my battery's flat. Charge your batteries when you get back home. Keep a full charged battery, keep a second battery, keep a tape inside the camera ready to go, and have an extra tape in your little camera bag. And you'll be ready to go. When anything happens, you'll be right there on the spot. I'll show you this little truck accident. I'm just driving down the highway, just in front of me, boom, a truck had a big accident. We shot that, it went to the news, and I got paid handsomely for it. You can do the same thing. Let me show you some of the tips. The main thing when you're doing an accident scene like this, remember, a wide shot, medium shot, crowd shots, close-up shots, just enough shots that a news station can put a voice over. Get some information. Did you see this? Did you see this? And you'll find that you can produce a little news story really simply. Let someone else edit it for you. You just get all the shots first. Okay? Good luck with that. Cameras have changed a lot over the years. From big, bulky, heavy cameras, film cameras. Do you remember these? These are the big VHS cameras. You may still have one of these. These weren't bad. They had all kinds of inputs. I started with a camera like this. Great combat camera. You wind it up and you film. But there's something very interesting I want to show you on the front of this camera. These have 3 lenses. It's called a 3-lens turret camera. And this turret camera has different lenses. Telephoto, medium, and wide. And the idea of this used to be, when the photographer was out in the field shooting, he would change the lens for the shot. That's how it used to be. You may remember the old days. You see the old TV cameras with 4 or 5 lenses on the front, like this one here. Here's a Bolex. I've done a lot of work with this camera. And once again, you have the 3-lens turret. And you'd turn them around, and this one's a wind-up camera. They all work. And that'll be rolling film. Okay, why I showed you that is today we have the zoom camera. You can simply zoom in and zoom out. But the idea of the zoom camera isn't so you can zoom in and zoom out to your subject. That wasn't the invention of the zoom lens. The zoom lens camera was to have multiple lenses. Lens, 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 lens. So you've got a variety of lenses from one extreme wide to the fullest extreme telephoto. Unfortunately, most people just use that zoom lens in to zoom in or zoom out. But your eye doesn't zoom. Your eye cuts. So what I hope that you will do when you film next is try not to use the zoom for a zoom effect, unless it's a special occasion. But try to use the multiple lenses that's in this zoom camera. Also with this camera, we have a thing called top load. So when you're buying a camera, try to get one that has a top load. The reason for that is it is so simple to put a tape into this camera while it's on a tripod. If you have a bottom load, you have to take it off the tripod and it becomes a real pain in the neck. The other thing about this camera is that little red jack there is a microphone in jack. So next time you're buying a camera, try to find one that has a microphone in. So you won't just be relying on this microphone, but you can buy, like we talked about before, a microphone with a transmitter and a receiver. And you now have a great microphone accessory that you can simply record one to the other. Another good thing about this camera, this particular one has a nice handle on the top. Why is the handle important? Sometimes when you hold a camera, you want to walk with it like this. If you don't have a handle, it's a bit awkward. So this is a bit more expensive, of course. Has the flip-out screen, and you can just walk with the camera. Whenever you're shooting outside and you're holding the camera in your hand, one of the tips is always be on full wide angle. The reason why you're on wide angle is so it eliminates the shaking around. The more you zoom in, the bigger the shake. It causes the shake to magnify. So you might ask, okay, then how do you get your close-up? It's very simple. You just simply walk closer to the subject. So if you shoot wide, get close to the subject, you'll eliminate a lot of the shake. I hope this has been helpful to you. When you pick up your camera, you'll find on the screen there's displays. It tells you the size of the battery, how much you have left, footage, time, and so forth. But you don't want the viewer at home to see that. So turn that display mode off. So you watch when it's turned on. They see all the information that you're seeing. So make sure you turn your display off. Go to your settings under the menu and look for display and simply turn display off. You'll still have display here on the screen, but you won't have it when it goes to your tape. That's something you need to watch for. Now, white balance is very interesting. The camera sees, if you hold a white card up, it sees that as white. But if you hold a red card up and do white balance, see what it does to the background? It changes everything. It makes it bluish. If you hold a yellow card up, it changes all the other colors. So in other words, when you press the white balance button, it's making whatever you're pointing at white. That's important to know that. It's changing the color white. So according to the color spectrum, it's going to go the opposite way. So if you want a bluish background, you use kind of a red card. If you want a warmer background, you'd use the opposite color, maybe like a little blue, and that'll make it a little warmer looking. You can experiment with that, and sometimes you get some pretty neat effects out of that, and that's the white balance. Most of the newer electronic cameras today have a great white balance feature. Automatic is always the best because you're changing light. If you go outside, according to the Kelvin color spectrum, the outside light is bluish. The inside light, depending whether you have a little light bulb, that's called incandescent, that gives you a red look. Or if you're using fluorescence, that gives you a green look. So you just need to be aware of these different light sources. So when you're mixing light sources, the automatic white balance on your camera will usually do a faster and better job than you can, unless you want to create a special effect. With all these cameras, they have an iris control. Iris control opens up or closes the amount of light that comes into your camera. Now, these newer cameras are pretty good when it comes to automatic. But if you've got a situation like in a shadow, you need to open it up. You want to find a button that might say backlit. For instance, I'll just show you this backlit button. If we push this backlit button in, you see the difference here. See how much brighter that brightened everything up? We take it off. So you want to be careful that you don't overdo that. But when you brighten up a subject with backlit, it brightens the front ground up, the foreground up, and over brightens the background. So you have to be careful using the iris. Just become familiar with the camera, go into some shaded areas, find the iris control, open the volume of light in and out, and just play with that before you start actually using it manually. Most of these cameras these days have a great automatic focus. But if you want to create a different kind of focus, you want to have the focus in the background softer, then you need to take the camera further away, zoom in closer, and have a narrower depth of field. In other words, the focal length between the front and back of the focus is very narrow. So if you go back with the camera, zoom in and focus, you'll see that the background is soft or out of focus, and the foreground is sharp. This is how you use the focus, manual focus. All right, I hope these tips will help you with your use of your camera. Roll the camera a little bit before you want the actual shot, if you can do that, if you're rehearsing a shot, and let it run a little bit longer. When you're editing, you can always shorten that and cut that out, but you want to make sure you get the whole shot, not half the shot. Many cameras, when you turn the button off, it rolls back, maybe a second and a half. So if you turn the camera on, turn the camera off, turn the camera on, turn the camera off, you might have all gone back 2 or 3 seconds. That's why when you go back to look at your video later, you think, boy, I thought I videoed that, and I must have cut it off too soon. No, it's because your camera rolled back. So give it a bit of pre-roll, that means roll ahead of time, and post-roll, so it'll roll after time. You can always cut that out. Another big mistake a lot of videographers make is they like to narrate while they're filming, while they're videoing. Don't do that. You can always add voiceover later on, either through your PC or through an editing system that you have. You can always add the voice later. But if you want to cut something in the middle of that video, you cut your audio, and it's hard to match audio. For instance, if you're doing a music video, for instance, and you're videoing a band, and you want to get all kinds of shots, you've got the wide shot, the master shot of the band, or of your school band, or whatever. When you record the whole song. Don't button off. If you only got one camera, and you got to run from here to there, just keep rolling. And you'll get some other shots later on called coverage. And that coverage will cover your running segments. You just lay it on top. But the main thing is to keep the audio running, because it's very hard to match a beat or the same sound. Because believe it or not, instruments, even though you can't hear the change, they're changing all the time. So remember, when you're shooting something with video, like music, roll through the whole thing. If you've got a couple of cameras, if you're shooting 2 or 3 cameras, a big secret with this is planning. You really need to plan. The way you shoot with 2 or 3 cameras, beforehand you plan. And camera 1, for instance, he's focusing on the talent, whatever the star or the actor or actress is doing. His whole job or her whole job is to follow that action. And that's where all the audio is going to come from, because the person's got a microphone on them, and that's going to be the main camera for close-ups. Your second camera should be doing medium shots, picking up other shots that's happening around the person, maybe a few super close-ups of hands and things like that. And then your third camera, it will just shoot the wide shot, the master shot, just as a coverage shot, an overview shot. And this is how you cover a lot of action.